call the roll, please?
Robert Kraus,
Present.
Jason Blair,
Here.
Kathy Griffith. Here. Terry Kavner,
Here.
David Roberts,
Here.
Mark Ham,
Here.
Glenn Lewis.
Here. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. At this time, I would like to read a proclamation declaring April 14th and the 20th, 2013 as National Telecommunicator Week. It's whereas in 1991, congressional resolution named the second full week in April of every year National Telecommunicator Week, and whereas emergencies can occur at any time, any place, and require the assistance of police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas 911 is the hotline for help for people in emergency situations, and the 911 call taker's voice is the first assurance that help is on the way. And whereas 911 professionals regularly meet the challenges of extremely stressful situations with calmness and efficiency. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of these emergency responders is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of the information obtained from citizens who telephone the 911 communications center. And whereas public safety dispatchers are the heart of public safety, providing assistance before any other emergency services arrive on scene. And whereas public safety dispatchers are a vital link for emergency responders by monitoring the activities by radio, providing them information, ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety dispatchers contribute substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of injuries and illnesses on a daily basis. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of his or her daily job duties. And now therefore, I, Glenn Lewis, Mayor of the City of Moore, do hereby proclaim the week of April 14th through the 20th, 2013 as National Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our region's citizens and emergency responders safe. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, we have Tammy Cohen here with us this evening. Tammy, if you'll come up. Tammy is a new employee for us. She's the dispatch or communications supervisor. Been with us now probably a month or 6 weeks or so, I believe, and doing a great job in helping us in dispatch. So we thank her for coming and appreciate the job that they do.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Item number 2 is the consent docket. Item A is approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held March 18th, 2013. Item B is receive the minutes of the regular planning commission meeting held February 12th, 2013. Item C is approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2012-2013 in the amount of $1,524,259.85.
Just have one quick question. Sure. It's on page 32, and it's legal expense of about $15,000, $15,326. Just a little bit of what that was.
This is the law firm that we hired to represent us in the case, Shaw's Investments versus the City of Moore. The case that was filed, I don't know, some months or a year or so ago. So this is claims paid to them for work done on that case.
Okay.
There probably will be some more, so you'll see some more on this because I think this was for work done a few months ago.
Okay. Thank you.
Move to approve.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the claims or any notes or changes to the minutes? If not, would you call the vote, please?
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner.
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 3, consider extending the temporary employee services contract with Number One Staffing Group from April 2nd, 2013 to April 2nd, 2014 with no increase in rates.
Mayor and council, we have been using the service actually for about 3 years. We went out for bid last year. They won the contract again. We have developed a real nice working relationship with them. Would like to just go ahead and extend this contract for another year, just based off performance, and there's not a fee increase.
So you're happy with the
Yes.
service factor?
Yes, sir.
Are you getting employees that stay around for a while?
Yes, we have some employees that's been with us off and on for almost 5 years. So.
Awesome. All right. I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? If not, would you call for the vote, please?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner.
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus.
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item carries. Thank you, sir. Item number 4 is consider awarding bid number 1213-011 low voltage cabling for the City of Moore Public Safety Center to Professional Technologies in the amount of $44,039.60.
Mayor and council, this is for Public Safety Center wiring, voice, data, and video for the new building. This is the lowest bidder. Hadn't heard of them, but they have glowing reviews from Oklahoma City Public Schools, Middale Public Schools, and more public schools that they've done lots of bid jobs for those.
Okay, so you guys feel comfortable with them?
Yep.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve?
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? If not, would you call for the vote, please?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner.
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 5 is consider approval of plans and specifications for GeoBond projects number 5 on the Broadway Avenue for North 5th Street to North 18th Street, and authorize staff to solicit bids for construction of said project.
Mayor and council, this will be the 5th and final GO bond project. It'll be Broadway Avenue from Northeast 5th to Northeast 18th. There will be signalization proposed at the intersection of Northeast 5th and Broadway, and then it'll be a 3-lane stretch of roadway from Northeast 5th to Northeast 12th, and then from 12th to 18th, it'll be a 2-lane roadway with a center landscape median along that area. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
On the 3-lane, is that for turn lane?
The center lane's a turn lane, that's correct.
And it'll be adequate, because right now it's a 4-lane. I know we discussed this once before, but it was never intended to be a 4-lane, but y'all are confident that 3
It's road width by ODOT standard, it's not a 4-lane roadway. It's striped and utilized as a 4-lane roadway. If you drive it very often, you'll feel the closeness on that inside lane. There's not that kind of traffic counts on that stretch of roadway. We feel like it'll be safer. There's a lot of foot traffic up and down Broadway with the elementary and the junior high. And this way we'll be able to incorporate sidewalks on both sides of the roadway with existing right-of-way. That was the thought process that went into the proposal.
And I would just ask that we make sure that all the utilities are located and the construction can go a lot more smoothly than what it has on 12th. Most of the projects, it has been, but that 12th has been a nightmare.
And we're not proposing to start this until we get 12th Street, which we're in a position now where 12th Street's gonna start making good progress if the weather cooperates.
Okay.
And
But
no
we won't tear it up until we get 12th Street closer to finished.
No possibility of a roundabout at 5th and Broadway? Figured I'd try one more time to get a roundabout in my name.
Your last shot,
My last shot. No roundabout at 5th and Broadway?
You talk to Elizabeth, she's got a home for a roundabout.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have a motion on
Make
this
the
item?
motion to approve.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, both. We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 6 is consider adopting resolution number 76313, urging the state legislature to repeal any permission of local smoke-free air and restore the right of local governments to enact and enforce smoke-free laws.
Mayor, this issue is one that's been kind of bopping around at the legislative level now for 2 or 3 years, I think. The Cleveland County's, what's the official name of y'all's group? Tobacco-free Cleveland County, which is an entity in Cleveland County that's working towards tobacco-free areas and public spaces and that sort of thing, approached us and been talking to us for some time now about just a resolution of support, really urging the legislature to repeal these laws that where there's state preemption or state control of smoking issues now statewide. There was legislation that was proposed in this legislative session, which didn't go anywhere. I think it's dead for this legislative session. But we wanted to be on record, basically, if you all approve this, certainly, that the city of Moore is in favor of local control over those issues. And this would be quite likely presented to our legislators and in the next legislative session next year as they go forward. But Heather Cerbaro is here if you have any questions about it or any concerns about what it is. There is a piece of legislation that is out there that's still alive that would support the cities. There's been many cities that have passed no smoking in parks, in public spaces in parks, and we did that some time ago, and then the Attorney General held that to be invalid. So that piece of legislation, last I heard anyway, is still percolating, but
What's the number on that bill? You know,
didn't get it.
is it a Senate bill or House bill, you know?
Senate bill,
Senate bill.
either 53 or 503.
So we would like to see that bill certainly passed, and then in the future, with this resolution, perhaps at some point the legislature will see fit to make that change.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any opposition? Anybody want to speak on it? Not, would you call for the vote, please?
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes. Item passes. Excuse me. Item number 7 is consider approval of a lot split located in the southwest quarter of Section 28, Township 10 North, Range 2 West, being north of Southeast 34th Street and east of Center Road. Application by Ron Walters.
Mayor and council, this property is located north of Southeast 34th Street and west of Center Road. It was rezoned by City Council on March the 4th, 2013 as a PUD for small administrative offices. The developer is now requesting to split the property as approved in the PUD design statement. This is to transfer ownership to the applicant for construction of the advertising and marketing office. Staff recommends approval of the lot split contingent upon the property being platted prior to the issuance of a building permit and all the standards that were set forth in PUD number 894 being met. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So the staff recommends passing?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I make a motion that we approve, subject to the recommendation by staff.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? If not, anyone opposed? If not, would you call for the vote, please?
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 8 is consider More Vision 2020 Comprehensive Plan Amendment number 38, located in the southwest quarter of Section 36, Township 10 North, Range 3 West, being southwest 34th Street, west of Broadway Avenue, from rural residential to urban residential low density. Application by Shaw's Investment Group. Planning Commission recommended denial of this item 8-0.
Mayor and council, items number 8 and 9 on your agenda are companion items. This property is currently zoned R1. It was preliminary platted with the Apple Valley addition in 2000 as acreage lots. It was shown on the More Vision 2020 as rural residential land use, and that decision was based on the approved preliminary plat of Apple Valley addition, plus the fact that there was not any sewer available at that time at that location for gravity flow. In 2011, the applicant applied to increase the densities from the approved 24 lots that were approved with the final plat of Apple Estates Section 3 to first 85 patio home lots. That application was withdrawn, and then finally 68 single-family residential lots. And that application went through the process and was denied by City Council. The applicant is now again requesting to increase the densities of this property from the approved 24 lots to 76 single-family lots. While the current R1 zoning district allows this increase in densities, the land use plan must be amended from rural residential to low-density residential, and the applicant must submit a new preliminary plat for the Apple Valley Addition Section 9. Public water will be extended through the site from an 8-inch water main on Baldwin Avenue. Additionally, a secondary water feed will be required from the west to provide adequate fire protection. A new sanitary sewer lift station is being proposed to provide public sanitary sewer service. The lift station will allow for public sewer connections to the north in the existing Apple Gardens addition. In considering the More Vision 2020 Comprehensive Plan Amendment, the issue surrounding this request is one of appropriate densities given the character of the area. The More Vision 2020 designates this property to the west, south, and east as rural residential. The comprehensive plan encourages transitional buffers to protect the rural residential properties from any adverse effects from higher densities abutting them. This particular application includes open space and drainage way as a transition to the lower density developments to the west. That may be considered appropriate. However, there is no transition to the south or the east. Part of the density discussion centers around the increase in traffic along the local residential roads. The subdivision does provide 2 points of entry from local residential roads. Both points of entry originate and terminate from one existing intersection of Baldwin Avenue and Manhattan Way. The proposed plat shows a roundabout to be constructed at this intersection as a traffic calming device. With the increase in proposed housing units on the subject property, a higher concentration of traffic will be funneled to this intersection, which is adjacent to the existing city park and the proposed parkland within this development. It should be noted that the plat does not meet the intent of the subdivision access ordinance by designing a neighborhood of 76 homes with effectively 1 point of access. This does create concerns for emergency management accessibility. Many of these same concerns are present with the preliminary plat review, primarily densities and traffic safety concerns. The platting request seeks to significantly increase the densities of a portion of the previously approved Apple Estates Section 3 from 24 lots to 76 lots. In review of the application, consideration should be given to how the increase of the 52 lots would affect the surrounding properties. This includes the city parkland located on the northwest corner of Baldwin and Manhattan. As proposed, this application will increase the traffic within the existing Apple Valley neighborhood. The immediate streets that would carry the traffic are the local residential streets of Baldwin and Manhattan Way, both of which are adjacent to existing and proposed parkland. Careful thought and consideration should be given to the safety of those park users in this area. The plat includes a traffic calming technique of a roundabout at the intersection of Baldwin and Manhattan. In general, this is a welcome addition. However, it does raise some concerns about safety. The applicant is proposing to construct the roundabout within the existing street right-of-way. The applicant has revised his preliminary plat from the original submittal to include a 15-foot turning radius, which is what is required by our fire marshal. However, we still have additional concerns about the provisions for pedestrian safety as they cross to the popular park and the aesthetic treatment of the center median, along with the ownership and maintenance of the roundabout. None of these considerations are addressed by the plat. Because of the significant increase in densities without consideration of the adopted Moore Vision 2020, staff does recommend denial of both of these applications. The applicant has not made substantial material changes to its application since the City Council's August 2011 denial of the previous application for 68 lots. That denial was not effectively appealed by the applicant and should prevent the applicant from again submitting a similar proposal absent substantial or material changes to address the City Council's conditions and objections from 2011. However, if Planning Commission and Council do determine that the approval of the application best serves the interests of the public, said approval should be contingent upon the following. Number one, approval of the companion comprehensive plan amendment number 38. Number two, staff approval of all building lines, easements, and street names. Number three, staff approval of all paving, drainage, water, and sewer plans, including the plans for the proposed sanitary sewer lift station. Number four, roundabout at the Baldwin and Manhattan Way intersection is required. Final design should meet all of the city requirements. Proper pedestrian safety improvements, adequate provisions for street drainage, and the landscape center island to be maintained by the homeowners association. Number five, fire department approval of all fire hydrant locations. And number six, compliance with all development fees. This includes the transportation impact fee and the lift station impact fee. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer. Oh, sorry, I should note that we did receive a petition of protest for this application, and I've given you copies of this. If you look on the back page, what we did is we did a 300-foot radius around the property, which was the official notification list. We then calculated the square footage of the area within that 300-foot radius, excluding any of the city-owned property. We then added up all the square footage of the property within that 300-foot radius list that signed the protest petition. And after doing that, we did have approximately 59% protest within that area. But on the map, you have the blue outlined lots are also lots that do not fall necessarily within that 300-foot area, but also sign the petition. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
I have one, but it's for Randy. Randy, on this official protest, what are we supposed to do with this?
You can use it to consider your opinion as to whether or not you should approve or not approve. Because it's not a zoning request, there's no additional requirements for increased approval vote or a common thought of super majority. But it's for you to consider in your decision-making process.
Now, the other question I have for you is, this went to court. We were sued. What happened? And why are we back?
I think that was dismissed by the complainant prior to any hearings.
It was.
Okay, now, we have a court reporter here working for them, and their attorneys are here, but our attorneys are not present. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So would it be, in your opinion, that we should table this item until our attorneys are present?
I think their input and knowledge would be very beneficial in considering such a controversial and contested issue.
Okay.
Before we do that, Elizabeth, what was the reason for increasing the density? Did they ever give one?
No, they did not. The applicant's representative is here if you'd like to ask him, but I've never been given a reason as to why.
Well,
You-
since we have advice of counsel to table it till our attorneys are present, I think we should do that. That would be his recommendation as well as mine. I know know we have a lot of people that are signed up that don't wanna have this, but in the interest of the city, that's what I do, is protect the city.
Until the next
The
city
next
council?
meeting,
Would all of you people be willing to come back? Because we want to make sure that, that we don't do something, because some of us have a tendency to say things that, mainly me.
I think they've been following it now for about 2 or 3 years, so.
So would you guys mind coming back next meeting so we can make sure that we have legal attorneys here?
Real point of law, real.
All right, and in the meantime,
do we?
I think one of you guys called me, I never called you back. If you guys want to, feel free to call me, because I represent an area out there. Call me, and I'd love to hear from you and hear what you have to say.
Let me
Okay.
ask another question. Is there some legal point here that we need additional counsel present? Because city attorney is here, and he should be able to advise us on most of this.
He can give you advice in general in terms of this application, no question. There was some very specific case law and some very specific information that was a part of the lawsuit, why it was dismissed, all those sort of things that I think that the council, outside council that we hired, it would be beneficial for you all to hear those things before you make a final decision. And it's my fault, I apologize for not having them here this evening. I guess I just didn't think that through very well, but I think it would be beneficial for you all to hear what our outside counsel has to say about this, because there's some questions about whether they can legally bring it back up in a short period of time, and whether there's been a substantial enough change for you all to even have to hear this or required to hear it a second time. So that would be what our recommendation would be.
And
You know, just, I hate to keep kicking this thing around, because I think we all understand the issues and have pretty well made up our mind, unless there's some legal information that we haven't, so.
I'm with you.
But, based on advice of council, I'm gonna say that I'll make a motion to table this until our next council meeting.
Thank you. Second.
If I may, David Box, 522 Concord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. I'm in the middle of trial during the next council meeting, as well as the week of April 22nd. So it's at least our position that this is ripe to be heard this evening. And
We've already
Well,
had a
it's our
motion.
position
We have a
that's
motion
already
and a
been
second.
heard. You sued me in court, so why aren't we back?
Absolutely.
we have a new application. The previous application had all sorts of problems with it.
As does this
So we had to refile, and we made substantial material changes to the layout, the access points. Several of the lots had problems that no longer have it. So our plat is a completely new plat with substantial material changes that have been made. So we would like to hear it tonight, or if you're inclined to continue it, we would at least ask that you put it to a time in which Mr. Anderson and I could be here.
Put it off till the first meeting in May, then.
Will that work for you?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, we'll table it to the first meeting in May. We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes. Item is tabled till the first meeting in May.
Thank you.
And citizens, if you want to, an email is good. If you want to put together thoughts on emails, it's kind of nice to have it on email. Just feel free to send it to us. Love to hear what you have to say.
Thank you very much for coming. Item number 8 is consider item number 9 is consider preliminary plat for Apple Valley, Section 9, located in the southwest corner of Section 36, Township 10 North, Range 3 West, being south of Southwest 34th and west of Broadway Avenue. Application by Shaw's Investment Group Incorporated. Do we have a tabling motion on this item?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Second. Thank you. Would you call for the vote, please?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus.
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. It is tabled to the next meeting, or to the May 1st meeting. Item number 10 is consider Moore Vision 2020 Comprehensive Plan Amendment number 36, located in the south second of Section 26, Township 10 North, Range 3 West, being north of Southwest 34th Street and east of I-35, Tract 1, from medium commercial, medium industrial to high-density residential, and Tract 2, from medium industrial to medium commercial, application by C-Star Construction Services, LLC, Howard, and this is page 91 on your packet, sorry.
Mayor and council, items number 10 and 11 are companion items on your agenda. The two subject parcels are located along the east side of I-35 Service Road, just north of Southwest 34th Street, and both are currently vacant. The applicant is proposing to develop Tract 1 as a high-density apartment complex with 384 units on 17 acres, results in approximately 23 units per acre. Tract 2 is proposed as retail and/or office use. Both tracts will be developed as part of a larger mixed-use residential commercial development between I-35 and the railroad tracks. Public water and sewer must be extended to serve this site. There is an existing drainage way on the property identified as a FEMA floodway and 100-year floodplain. Detention will be required for the site, and all required FEMA studies and submittals will be required. Access to the larger site is from both the I-35 Service Road and Southwest 34th Street. The apartment site will have direct access to the I-35 Service Road, with the commercial site having access to both arterial roadways through collector streets. Citizen concerns have been raised about the traffic congestion that is currently being experienced along the service road and the additional traffic that this application may add to this situation. I can say that the city is currently investigating some potential remedies to this situation, and although we haven't made any final decisions, we are currently looking at the congestion issue. Pursuant to the More Vision 2020, the applicant is utilizing a planned unit development for the rezoning. By utilizing a PUD, the city may relax certain density requirements in exchange for amenities that would not otherwise be required. This PUD proposal includes the following amenities. Increased aesthetic requirements for main structures being 70% brick veneer, rock, masonry, and/or stone for the first story, 50% coverage on the second story, and some elements on the third story, and varied architectural elements including projecting gable ends, varied roof lines, and gabled roof elements. This is all to create some interesting designs and avoid monotony. 100 single-car garages for residential use. A central boulevard with traffic calming measures and enhanced landscaping. Common area including a 5,000 square foot clubhouse, swimming pools, and a tennis court. Approximately 4 acres of green space will be usable recreation areas. Buffering from the Crystal Heights addition, including a site-proof screening fence, and limiting the placement of any 3-story building to a minimum setback of 50 feet, and a 2-story building to a minimum setback of 25 feet of the north property line. This property is currently designated in the More Vision 2020 as medium commercial and medium residential. The More Vision 2020 did not identify specific tracts for future high-density residential land use, but rather it identified the medium commercial land use designation as a comparable land use in terms of traffic, parking impacts, and that did recommend that the future high-density residential projects be considered for those parcels that were designated as medium commercial. The plan goes on to recommend transitional buffers between multifamily and lesser density uses. This application meets the basic intent of the comprehensive plan. However, the Planning Commission and now you, the City Council, should determine if the buffering techniques are appropriate. Public hearing was held on February the 12th of this year, and a separate neighborhood meeting was held on February 25th. Both of these meetings were to collect citizen comments on the proposed apartments. We did have decent turnout from the Crystal Heights addition. Concerns were raised in regards to the traffic congestion on the I-35 service road, through traffic in the Crystal Heights addition, and the height of the apartment buildings, and the impacts of the development on the adjoining residential addition. To help mitigate any of those adverse impacts, The developer has included transitional buffers along the north and east property lines, ensuring a 250 feet commercial buffer to separate the apartment development from the BNSF Railroad and the Lakes Woods addition, as well as a 50-foot buffer from the north property line to any 3-story building in the apartment development. The proposed development meets the intent of the More Vision 2020 as well as the PUD requirements for multifamily housing. If the City Council feels that the proposed buffering and transition techniques provide adequate protections to the existing residential properties, staff does recommend approval of this application. I know that the applicant is here, and of course, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
I guess I have a question is there anyone here that's protesting against this one?
I believe we have some people here.
Okay, there's no one signed up. Would anyone like to speak on this idea? No? Okay.
I'd like to hear more about the apartments and rent and how nice and that kind of thing.
I think that I'll let the applicant speak to
Sure,
that.
absolutely.
I have one question for you, Elizabeth. Have we had our engineer do a traffic study on the increase in traffic on that?
The applicant has paid for a study by EST to look at the preliminary impacts that something like this might have. And basically their findings were that a multifamily development will generate less traffic than retail, and that even though the service road right now is operating at a level, I think it's D or an F, it's operating poorly, very congested, the added traffic will not necessarily make the problem any worse. It will still be congested. So we do know that we have some work to do as far as alleviating that congestion. But that's an existing problem that is today.
We need a bridge on the 34th Street. Definitely.
Can you build that, Elizabeth?
I will get right on that.
I have one question, I think, for you. The commercial development, could they, that's zone commercial. My concern would be that maybe that doesn't develop, there's not the interest that we would like, and they decide to go ahead and just fill it with apartments. Now, that would have to come back before us
Yes,
to authorize that, or whoever the council may be at that time.
that is correct. No apartments in almost anywhere in the city can go in without specific approval from this body.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, just like to hear a little bit more about exactly kind of what you had planned.
Sure. My name is Heath Hans. I'm with Architects in Partnership, here representing the applicant. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate y'all's time. I'll try to be as brief as possible. One of the things I want to stress is that this isn't just an apartment complex. It's actually 103 acres of a mixed-use development. That mixed-use development contains over 100,000 square feet of retail in its current plan, over 35,000 square feet of commercial office space. In addition, there's 5 to 6 high-end restaurant pads that are being currently planned as well. When the landowner kind of started on this venture, trying to push it forward almost a year ago, one of the first things that he did was get a market or feasibility study prepared. And what that is there's a national company that comes in and kind of analyzes the demographics, what's going on in Moore, and what they try to identify is the best land use for that site. And the identified best land use for this site was what they called a lifestyle center. And a lifestyle center is kind of a unique concept to Oklahoma and more, but it's a combined live, work, play environment to where you have people living in a location where they can walk to a place where they can work, and they can walk to also a location where they can purchase retail, have restaurants, etc. The reason they've duped it as a lifestyle center is because they said this is exactly kind of what Moore needs. Moore has a lot of apartments, Moore has a ton of retail, but it doesn't have this very, very unique combination. It specifically identified high-end apartments is the largest need, and it was trying to create a separation from the current rental community in Moore and provide something unique. It said it should have a proximity to commercial and retail, and more importantly, be walkable. The other components the critical thing I want to point out is that the Both components are necessary in order for the development to work. One really doesn't work without the other one. What are high-end apartments, you might ask? High-end apartments are, first and foremost, rents much higher than what you have in your current location. The average rent for Moore is about 85 to 90 cents per square foot. The average rent in this apartment complex is over $1 a square foot. Something else that high-end apartments have are better amenities than other apartments. Much different amenities, to be exact. Another component of high-end apartments is better finishes, both inside and out, whether that's stone and masonry or high-end finishes on the inside of the building. The apartment complex is moving first out of these two components only because of the fact that this site has a large drainage ditch which runs through it, and it's actually what's considered a floodway. It's not a floodplain, it's a floodway. And a floodway requires that the Corps of Engineers approve any modifications that you're gonna make to that drainage ditch. So that process is about a 6, 9, or 12-month process at a minimum, and it has started. It started a few months ago. It starts with a drainage analysis by an engineer, which costs tens, twenties, $30,000. And that doesn't matter, but I want you guys to know that the commitment is there for the entire site. The only reason the apartments are before you and kind of being discussed is, one, because it's a little bit more sensitive to some of the community, which we respect and understand, and really because it's gonna break ground first. When we got into the site design, you guys have it in your packet, I apologize, we don't have the overall site out here. But it's 103 acres. The apartments are situated all the way to the north on the property. And the reason they're situated there was for a few reasons, but primarily we wanted to create a buffer between the residential. There's no other neighborhood surrounding or abutting this property except to the north. And the residential component is actually a buffer for noise, it's a buffer for sound, it helps with traffic. It does a few other things to kind of enhance the development, but it was by far the best location. And more importantly, it enabled this component to start moving now while the drainage issues are dealt with on the larger site. It also allowed us to use the existing drainage ditch as a water feature. That way we can take that ditch, and when we improve it, our goal is to enhance it and create a large pond and detention area. And then what that is a nice view for the restaurant pads, and once again, just enhances development. We created an internal boulevard, kind of as a internal thoroughfare for traffic, for cars, for vehicles, for pedestrians. There's a couple other challenges with the site. The location of those boulevards and thoroughfares don't just appear where they do for fun, but there's a high pressure utility line that's out there as well that we have to get around. And to provide that easement and develop the rest of the site, that's kind of how we had to choose what we did. But the layout is conceptual only at this point. Once we get through the drainage study, we will be finalizing that. But the goals and targets that I outlined for you is absolutely our direction. The apartments are going to be done in 2 phases. There's 384 apartments total, 256 in the first phase, and 128 planned for the second phase. This is a 3-story, full rent product. And the possible amenities being discussed are jogging trails, a landscape pond, which is situated on the southeast portion of Tract 1. We're going to provide a tennis court, a dog walk, because people need a place to walk their dog and kind of have some additional green space. There's 4.2 acres of green space on our site currently. I can answer any more specific questions you guys have about the apartment, but I'm going to tell you briefly how we got to where we are. We do realize that there's some people in the community in the neighborhood to the north of us that were very concerned about the development. And all I can tell you is that we have done our best to try to appease them, try to make the development still good and real from a return on investment standpoint, and work with the city and be a good neighbor. There was some opposition in the first preliminary planning hearing, and so the developer said, let's sit down and have a meeting. And so we sat down with the community, and basically what they told us was, we don't really like the proximity of the buildings to the property line. You need to be back, 25, 50 feet. We talked about where 3 stories could begin, where 2 stories were acceptable. And basically the end result is that what Elizabeth defined, 50 feet is a 3-story building. Now we have 2 buildings which are a little closer to that, but we bumped them down to 2-story buildings, one to appease the neighborhood, but still try to get as much value as we could out of the building. So the middle of it is 3 stories still. The other major concern were views into the backyard. The site plan that you currently see, the buildings, as you can tell, are all kind of oriented horizontally. Before, we had meandering buildings and a little bit more context and interest, but we rotated the buildings to minimize the views. The side of the building has a lot less windows than the front. And then we met with them again and we eliminated the windows on the sides of the building. So there's no windows on the sides of the building. All buildings have been rotated to address the best view possible for the neighborhood to the north. We've gotten away from 3-story structures where the buildings were close. We provided 2-story structures. Another component that they were concerned about was just the tenants. And everyone's concerned about rental community and tenants. I'll tell you that the tenants in this apartment community are going to be paying very high rents. Rents that range from $750 a month to over $1,100 a month. Those are very expensive, and the tenants there are, the target demographic for the market study is a very specific individual. There's a lot of major, retail growth, medical growth, and other growth, and more, and we got to provide homes for that level of occupant. This apartment complex can do that. Another concern was degradation over time, which happens a lot in apartment communities. You may have seen it in some of the ones around town. You have a developer comes in, he develops a property, in 5-7 years, he sells the property. It's structured for buyout. That's what apartment developers do. So they put minimal features in them, they don't put good materials in them, and then when they sell them in 5 years, the new owner has to bring it up to par. And that's all based on cap rates, the financial market, and kind of what's going on. But the reason that doesn't matter for this development, Howard Offlegger with C-Star Management is the developer for the apartments. And if you look at his track record and what he's doing, he is a local developer. He's not from another state. He's from Oklahoma. He's got a good track record. This deal is not structured for buyout. This is for insertion in a portfolio. He, his family, his son will maintain this property for 20, 30 years. There are successful properties and more that have been done this way. The other ones most likely have not. Traffic is a major concern, and we fully understand and realize that. We are committed as a development to do our best to work with the city of Moore to try to provide any solution possible. We can't solve the current traffic issues. A lot of those are dictated by ODOT. But we can help create a development that's going to influence ODOT to come out and solve some of the challenges that you have. We have hundreds and thousands of dollars, possibly over $1 million, in impact fees that can be allocated towards projects. There are private funds that can be used for additional improvements. We've committed to try and help the traffic in Crystal Heights by providing speed bumps, traffic calming devices. They currently don't have those. And we do realize that a lot of traffic goes through there. And additional traffic from our development may do so as well. We can't solve that for them, but we can do our best to help. As Elizabeth pointed out, I just want to reiterate that the traffic study that has been prepared shows that a residential development provides 1/3 to 1/2 of the traffic that a commercial one does. So if track 1 were also commercial and retail, the impact to traffic would be much worse to the neighborhood and much worse to the city of Moore. I think that's about it. We are very excited about working this out and getting the project moving. We do have representatives here from both parties, not just the landowner, but also the developer of the apartment community. But I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
So on your study for the wetlands over there that's on that side of that property, have you heard back anything from the Corps of Engineers yet?
We have not. To be honest with you, we're still in the process of analyzing what SMC had across the highway, because we're taking on an exorbitant amount of water and working out those hydraulic calculations, interfacing our development, and then getting the outcharge. We're just not there. There's been a phone call made and a pickup, but we're just honestly not to the point where we can sit down face to face.
The other question I have for you, are there going to be safe rooms or any kind of storm shelters with these? It's 3 stories tall, and as you know, we're ground central.
We haven't had that discussion yet. We typically don't do it in our apartments. It's very difficult in wood construction. I've done it before in student housing projects, where you basically take metal straps and you basically take the corridors, an internal corridor, and put metal straps and create a box. These are entrances on the outside from a breezeway, so all those doors are there. But in the community center / clubhouse, there's surely an opportunity for something.
Okay, because these are going to be medical students, I'm sure, a lot of them.
Yes, sir.
If that's built.
Well, you did a pretty good job answering most of my questions. I did have a couple, though. Regarding the clientele, do you think this would be more kind of like single people that will move there, or families, or what type of situations are families will move into these apartments, do you think?
These market studies and any developer that's being honest with you would tell you that they're identifying target demographics. But the truth of the matter is what actually moves in is never ever 100% consistent. It's a good start, but what they are parameters for which to build the apartment complex. It's gonna be difficult for, somebody who doesn't have quite the higher income or, has a bunch of children or a few other things to do this. But I would say you probably still have an array and mix of people. Primarily, what's been identified though is your younger professional, unmarried, and no children.
Someone's kind of getting started, maybe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other question I have for you, do you have any idea where the closest type of project around here is that's similar to what is being proposed?
It's a good question.
So I was trying to think in my mind.
I could name a
couldn't
few,
think.
but I would probably be wrong to be,
Are you talking about the entire project or the apartments themselves?
Well, kind of either. I mean, this type of apartments or the whole project as a whole, I was just kind of curious if there was anywhere around here close.
I mean, the apartments, this is definitely not what the final product's gonna look like. But, this is a definite concept with which you'll have, they're 3-story buildings, they are wood frame, they're very residential in looking. There's a couple of styles that we'll still study, and this is more of a neoclassical, non-traditional style. There's a craftsman look and a few other things, but, I would go.
Complex on South Pennsylvania,
Montclair.
just south of.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That,
Montclair.
I think would be comparable to what we're looking at here.
The Lincoln down on I-40, just to the east.
Okay, I know what you're talking
It's kind of nestled, it's hidden, but the Lincoln would be the most comparable property I can think of. It's just not close. I know
Right,
most
right.
of what's in more currently is 2-story.
Yeah.
So it's a little difficult from that aspect. But the overall layout, the amenities, and kind of the mixture of the buildings, I would say Lincoln. Lincoln at the Greens, I think is what it's called.
Now, will these be gated? We have to have a code and stuff to get into the complex for the apartments?
We're currently, yes.
Okay.
And then what we'll have is a pedestrian gate on the side so that they can get over to the retail, and there'll be pathways and a few other things as well.
Okay.
If I could just touch a little bit on the retail, you talk about, right now it's just a concept, there's nothing there. If it were to go through and the apartments are built, and you are able to do some things in the commercial, what is that? Is it gonna be pictures and this is what we would like for it to look like as you're marketing this, or is anything gonna happen in there?
There's
to
several.
encourage developers to come in.
There's kind of several scenarios, I think, that may transpond through this. Depending on how quick the drainage study goes, we've already had interested parties about coming because they heard that, they were gonna develop the site. But the truth of the matter is retail functions a little differently than most other developments. It's very fast, it's very, from the hip, and if you don't have a pad to where they can execute a lease agreement and a term, figure out the cost, then they're gonna walk on the deal. And until we have a pad that's ready to go, so that we can negotiate with retailers and commercial property, it's gonna take a little while to get there. The current goal, without any big box commitment or a few other things, as we currently stand, is to develop the property just as shown, with utilities, infrastructure, planned detention, and a few other components. And every one of those pads will have the utilities necessary to kind of be developed in the future. And then the landowner will have either purchase agreements or lease agreements, depending on who it is, that he will go execute with those people.
I know in the past I've been concerned about apartment complexes and crime rate going up, but I don't think it's a problem with these type of apartments, wouldn't you think?
I didn't say this.
Yeah. Chief, you have any opinion on that?
The rent properly, like, people have some problems that they're gated, things like you're talking about. One's now on 19, they'll never work off.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And these being 3-story apartments, some of them, we have adequate fire protection equipment if something horrible were to happen? Okay.
And we're actually planning to sprinkle all the buildings.
Okay.
You don't have to sprinkle type 4 and type 5 construction, but there's a lot of benefits to the landowner and the building owner and a few other things, so they will be fully sprinkled.
Okay. Okay.
Which is always good for wood construction.
I'd make a motion that we approve this item.
you very much for bringing this project to town.
Yeah,
We appreciate it.
We have a motion and a second. Anybody else?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner.
Yes.
David Roberts.
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes. Item carries. Item number 11 is consider rezoning application number 897 located in the south second of half of Section 26, Township 10 North, Range 3 West, being north of Southwest 34th Street and east of I-35, Track 1 from I2/A2 Medium Industrial District, Suburban Agricultural District to R4 PUD Multiple Family District, Planned Unit Development, Track 2 from from I2/A2 Medium Industrial District, Suburban Agricultural District to C3 General Commercial District, and approve ordinance number 736-13, application by CSART Construction Services.
Make a motion to approve.
All right. Thank you both. We have a motion and a second. Anyone want to speak? If not, would you call for the vote, please?
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts.
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus.
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 12 is consider rezoning application number 898 located in the southeast quarter of section 14, Township 10 North, Range 3 West, being south of Main Street and west of Eastern Avenue, from C3 General Commercial District to C3 PU General Commercial District with a permissive use, and approve ordinance number 744-13, application by Jason Nedrow. Planning Commission recommended approval of this item 5.3.
Mayor and council, this property consists of 3 acres. It is located south of Main Street along the west side of Eastern Avenue. On July 2nd, 2012, the Moore City Council approved rezoning application number 888, rezoning the property to C3 General Commercial. Since that time, the developer has removed the single-family residence. Now he is proposing to redevelop the property with a mini storage. In order to do that, he must obtain a permissive use. Public water is located along Southeastern Avenue. Public sewer is available on the northwest property line. Access is provided by Eastern Avenue. Future development on this site will be reviewed at the time of the building permit to determine the number and size of the driveways that will be approved. There is no floodplain located on this property. However, there is a significant drainage channel on the west boundary of the property that abuts Woods Drive and releases on the south end of the property. This drainage channel handles a significant amount of stormwater in the basin, and prior to issuance of any building permit, the developer will be required to have an engineered drainage study to determine whether or not detention is needed. In considering a permissive use, staff does consider the specific use that is being requested. In this case, it's a mini storage, and the potential impacts on the surrounding properties. Because this property abuts the Woods addition, particular attention was given to the proposed buffering techniques. With the existing drainage channel as a natural buffer for the residential addition to the west and north, staff does believe that this application meets the intent of the Moore Vision 2020 and recommends approval of this application. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Why the change? Why are we going to mini storages from houses?
Oh, it was zoned originally for C3, just retail services. And I'll let the applicant explain as to why he's wanting the mini storage as
Because
opposed
we
to
just
the
zoned
retail.
this, right?
Back in 2012.
Okay.
To commercial, to C3
Right.
commercial.
Okay.
I'll be honest, when not too long ago, I actually looked in the telephone book under storage units, and within not too far radius of Moore, there were over 60 different storage units that you could use. And that's a lot of storage units.
Well,
Not sure we need any more, to be honest with you.
I mean, I can understand that, but I can tell you that we looked at the feasibility of it as well. And, so that's, obviously we wouldn't do it if we didn't feel like there was a return on investment.
Why are we changing it from something different?
Well, the lot was very deep and the frontage was a lot narrow. We were looking at trying to do the retail as well as maybe doing some storage on the backside, but we couldn't get those numbers to work.
I'm kinda like Robert, I think we got too many of them.
I like the retail idea a whole lot better.
Yeah.
But there, you know, it's kind of an awkward piece of land. I mean, it's not really very suitable for much retail. It's deep, but, I'm not sure what you can put in there that would utilize the back side of that property. Big thing is, I'm anxious to see it, something developed there and looks good and brings credit to that area right now. And for as long as I've been around, why, that's been kind of a junky looking area, and, I'm ready to see somebody do something with it. And my person, having visited with it, in regards to this, I think if they stay with this, concept and so forth, that we'll have something that, we'd be, pleased with down there. And as far as the, you know, as long as people are gonna fill those storage units up, why, there's gonna be a market for them, and I know how that goes. I leased one several years ago, moved some stuff in it, didn't go down there for 3 years, but, continued to need the storage.
I don't know, I think that property could be used for something else, to be honest with you. Now, this is where the house
Well,
was,
I mean,
is this where the house was torn down? Is that right?
Yeah.
Right, okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
And I will say, you know, our intent on that rendering, obviously, we know how much money was just put into the school. We know the term storage nobody likes, so we're trying to, you know, not have it be an eyesore, which is why we're spending so much money on the front elevation of that to make it something that people will be appealing.
This elevation that's in front of us is pretty close to what you're expecting to build.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's real in line. We're committed to that front elevation.
Can you, if we were to approve it, can y'all, you just change your mind and just put the storage buildings up and then just a chain link fence?
Well, the chain link fence is already there, but we're probably not gonna use it.
Let me answer that question, and the
Okay.
answer to that question is yes. He has to meet certain aesthetic requirements that our C3 ordinance would have in it, which has some requirements for brick, I believe, 50% brick or something like that. But, and a landscaping requirement, that certainly wouldn't look like this from day one. What I'm telling you is it doesn't have to look like this. If it was in a PUD development, like the others, the apartments and all that, it could be tied down to specific elevations, specific type of materials, that sort of thing, but just a straight rezoning. It doesn't even have to be mini storage, it could be anything that's allowed in C3 zoning by right. That right's already there.
Okay.
Again, that right's already there by C3. And also, let me just say, in terms of your consideration, if you need to consider the land use really only, not whether there's too many mini storage units. That's not for the city council really to decide whether the market is ripe or not per se for these units. It's whether the location, at that location for mini storage or any other use that the applicant were to apply for is appropriate at that location at this point in time.
I'll be honest, I mean, it looks nice, but I just don't know if that's the right location for it. I mean, nothing personal at all.
No,
but
absolutely not.
I'd really like to,
Anybody wanna make a motion one way or the other?
I'll personally make a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
David Roberts,
No.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
No.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
What's the vote, Council?
4 and 2. 4
and 2.
yes, 2 noes. No.
So, did it carry or not?
It carries all
Okay,
4 to
Well,
3
for denial, right?
For
to
denial?
deny.
Okay. This time, the application is denied.
Do you know that you have no control over what goes in there?
Well, we have a
We have
little
some
bit.
control.
Huh?
We have a
some
little bit.
control.
Yeah.
Well, but if something, if somebody makes an application for something that fits the zoning, then it's a done deal.
Okay, item 13 is consider awarding bid number 1213-007, the Brand Senior Center expansion to Apollo Building Systems with alternate number 1 in the amount of $331,000. This is community development. What's an alternate number 1?
I'm sorry, what?
What's an alternate number 1?
With painting, correct?
Throughout.
Interior painting throughout. Mayor and council, this is a project that we had approved with the 2012 CDBG funding, the grant funding that we get to assist our low-income residents, which seniors are considered to be just a broad blanket of low income. So there was a need for expanding the senior center, and so that's what we have determined to use that funding for. We have set aside approximately $228,000 for that project through our CDBG funds, which of course will be applied to this project. The remainder of the funding will come from, help me out, some like budgetary adjustments. Quarter-cent sales tax is what it's gonna be. So through the combination of funding is how we're going to get this accomplished if you feel to approve this tonight.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve.
How much of an expansion is it gonna do? I forget, I don't have it in front of me.
2,000 square feet, and it will.
Additional, right?
Additional,
Okay.
correct. We're building on to the east, and so that will have an additional room for dominoes and reposition the billiard players and a craft room and a computer lab.
Awesome, good.
Second.
All right.
I'll second it if you don't have a second yet.
Got one. Thank you, though. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? If not, would you call for the vote?
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner.
Yes.
David Roberts.
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes. Item carries. At this time, we'll recess the city council meeting and convene the Moore Public Works Authority meeting. Item 14 is the consent docket. Item A is receive and approve the minutes of the regular Moore Public Works Authority meeting held March 18, 2013. Item B is approve and ratify the claims and expenditures for FY 2012-2013 in the amount of $1,701,661.49. Everybody gets their claims questions answered. Any notes or changes to the minutes?
Make a motion to approve?
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Would you call for the vote, please?
Robert Kraus.
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts.
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. At this time, we'll recess the Moore Public Works Authority meeting and convene the Moore Risk Management meeting. Item 15 is the consent docket. Item A is accept the minutes of the regular Moore Risk Management meeting held March 18, 2013. Item B is approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2012-2013 in the amount of $164,881.26.
Make a motion to approve?
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other notes or changes to the minutes? Everybody get their claims questions answered? If so, would you call for the vote, please?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus.
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes. At this time, we'll recess the Moore Risk Management meeting and reconvene the city council meeting. Item 16 is new business. Item A is citizens forum. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. All right, we have an addendum here. Item 13.1 is consider approval of a contract with TAP Architect in an amount not to exceed $1,794,790 for architectural and engineering services for the new Central Moore Park to include a community center, aquatic facility, amphitheater, farmers market, multipurpose building, walking trail, and infrastructure. Now,
Make a motion to approve it.
okay, who is TAP Architect and did we bid this out?
Mayor, you may recall that we took proposals from engineering firms and architectural firms for this work. I think we had 17 of 16 firms that had submitted letters of qualifications and interest. We interviewed 5 of those firms, I believe, and the committee that was on that firm, a couple of the councilmen were on that firm,
Okay.
committee who was on it.
Did we approve the
But-
selection of that?
Yes, but you did, this committee recommended TAP Architecture. Anthony McDermott is the principal of that firm. We brought that to you all. You approved us negotiating the contract, and we spent several hours with Anthony working through this. And this is a large contract, but it's for all of the architectural, the planning, the architectural work on the community center, the aquatic center, the utilities, the amphitheater, all of the components of the new park. So this is probably a 3-4 year project. Anthony's firm has designed many facilities around in Oklahoma City area and is one of the premier firms really in Oklahoma City.
I knew the answer, I just wanted everybody else out there to know, you know. So I think everybody needs to hear that. How we got there. Okay, thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote,
We
please?
need a
No other
second.
discussion.
I will second it then.
Oh,
Terry did.
Terry was the
Terry
second.
already seconded.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. At this time, we'll recess the Moore Risk Management meeting and reconvene the city council meeting. Item 16 is new business. Item A is citizens forum for items not on the agenda. There's no one signed up. Would anyone like to speak? Item B is items from the city council or trustees.
I would just ask that, maybe on our retreat that's coming up, or that a topic of discussion would be the bridge at 34th Street. I know throughout the course of both election cycles, we've all talked about that and are wanting that. I hope that it would be something that we'll discuss seriously, and I know that has been discussed seriously before, but it's, a lot of money. We could just,
Maybe we
come
get
up with-
ODOT to show up to that part of it.
yeah, come up with a plan or some ideas as to when that may happen.
I think you're right. I think that and underpass are the two big projects that we have in our future that need to be discussed.
And we did have conversations on 2 different meetings with the applicants and representatives of the project that you all approved earlier. And obviously, that is very much, would be a benefit to their project if it was done. So I told the mayor earlier, and maybe 1 or 2 of you others, but I really do believe with that developing, that property developing, and with that happening, there's probably more of an opportunity with ODOT and with perhaps some private firms and some city money involved perhaps at some point to get the bridge done. We're a little closer to it now than I think we've ever been before.
Okay.
Put it that way, but I'm certain we'll have a discussion about that at the retreat.
Great.
Speaking of retreat, I think probably it might be well for us to kind of have a review on
So you're saying you can't even ask questions about anything on there?
I don't think so.
I've never heard that before, but okay.
Okay, anything else?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I just wanted to thank everyone for your last 8 years of support. Tonight's my last meeting, and we've grown up a lot together. I've learned a lot about not only our community, but also how we fit in with the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments. I've been on the 911 Enhanced Committee that helps people, emergency services, find people when they don't even know where they're at. So that's been an interesting experience. I've learned a lot about the city of Moore. It can take 8 years to put in a roadway and sidewalks on each side, and it can be up to $1 million for a mile of 4-lane roadway. I've learned that the little things that mean a lot to people, sometimes it's just a listening ear. I'll share a funny story with you. I had a lady several years ago that called me and was just all up in arms about a situation behind the fence in her backyard. It was some debris that had been dumped there by the May 3rd tornado. The land happened to belong to a private individual, so the city of Moore couldn't do anything about it, but she explained that during the wintertime, when the leaves were off the trees, if you put your eye up to the knothole, you could see the debris, and she was tired of looking at it. So that was a very real issue for her, and I appreciate, the simple things like that, the big things. The mayor and I have been to visit with family members who have lost their loved ones in Iraq, so it's all of that that makes this city what it is. It's a great place to be and a great place to live. I'm still living within the city limits of Moore, so I'll still be around. I just want to thank everyone for their support over the years. You'll be in good hands with Scott Singer coming on board.
Thank you, Pat. We appreciate you. All the stuff you've done. It's been a great ride.
It has been.
It's good.
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
we will ask Kathy to come back.
For the next meeting, right?
We will ask Kathy to come back a little early at the next meeting, if you will, because there will be a reception honoring our outgoing member and our newly elected and re-elected members that are incoming members. So probably about 6 o'clock before the next meeting, we will do that.
And I would also I appreciate Kathy, when I first came onto the council almost a year ago, very quickly we got in contact with one another, and she drove me around the ward and explained to me how she dealt with issues pertaining to citizen complaints or questions, as well as things that come before this council. So I appreciate your willingness to help a new council person. It was greatly appreciated.
We're gonna miss you.
I'll be here. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'd just like to tell Mr. Drake, thank you. The street crew's doing a great job keeping all the gravel and the rocks off of Broadway. It's been clear every time I've gone through there. When they first started laying dirt and stuff out there, there was a lot of gravel and rock on the road, but it's been clean ever since Mr. Drake got on top of it. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Actually, we're finished hauling dirt. We're gonna do some more survey and find out exactly how many spoonfuls we have down there, but we feel quite certain that we have over $100,000 of good dirt with very, very little investment. We were in the right place at the right time.
Good, awesome. Because we spent $4 million tonight. Glad you saved some money on some dirt. Just kidding. Okay, any items for the city manager or trust manager?
Just wanted to mention our condolences to Jim Corbett, our finance director. His young son passed away last week. His funeral is tomorrow at 10. If anybody's interested in that, I encourage you to do that. I was Friday afternoon, took a tour of the sewer treatment plant, and there's a significant amount of improvement and construction and progress that's been made down there. So I felt real good about that. I think Stan mentioned 12th Street earlier. There's been a significant amount of work started again finally on 12th Street, so we're certainly happy to see that. The traffic engineers completed the retiming and the reworking of the traffic signals at 5th and Telephone I-35. If you've gone through there, you should see a significant difference, because there's a significant difference from the way that they were originally designed to where they're operating now, which is not having the minute and a half, 2-minute delays that we're having with that over there. So happy to see that. I think that's all I have at this point, Mayor.
Okay. Item 17 is executive session. Section 307, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes permits the public body to meet in executive session for certain specified reasons under certain specified conditions. It is the opinion of the city attorney that the city council may consider and adopt a motion to meet in executive session to discuss the following items. Item A, discuss and if deemed appropriate, consider taking possible action regarding pending litigation styled Pepper Mackey Building Company LLC and Summit Quality Homes Incorporated versus the City of Moore, case number CJ 2012154L, and authorization for legal counsel and staff to take action as necessary and appropriate in the interest of the City of Moore as authorized by 25 Oklahoma Statutes 307B-4. Item B, discuss and if deemed appropriate, consider taking possible action regarding pending litigation styled Ronnie Big Whip individually and as a father and next friend of Tazia Big Whip versus the City of Moore, case number CJ 2011-115L, and author Oklahoma Statutes 307B-4. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that staff proceeds as directed.
Second.
Thank you both. Would you call for the vote, please?
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner.
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item B is discuss and if deemed appropriate, consider taking possible action regarding pending litigation styled Ronnie Big Whip individually and his father of next friend of Tazia Big Whip versus City of Moore, case number CJ 2011-115L, and authorization for legal counsel and staff to take action as necessary and appropriate in the interest of the City of Moore as authorized by 25 Oklahoma Statutes 307B-4. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion for staff to proceed as directed.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus.
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 18 is adjournment.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Would you call for the vote, please? I want
Kathy
to call for a
Griffith.
vote for adjournment.
Yes.
Terry Kavner,
Yes.
David Roberts.
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Jason Blair,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you for coming.